You either have to vote for Kamala or Putin. Who do you choose?
Oh, definitely Putin.
Putin.
Really? Why?
Absolutely. He's for his people. He is for his people.
Yeah, Putin's values on family and on traditions and, protecting children. It almost sounds like, I'm not a pro-Putin guy.
So you think the country would be better off under a rule like a Kim Jong-un or somebody, or Vladimir Putin?
Hey, I love Russia.
You do? Why?
Yeah, it's beautiful. The people are wonderful.
I'm not a fan of Putin, but Kamala is for communism and taking us further down the crap hole.
This is going to be a tough one, but what's your definition of communism? I just want to know.
I believe, it starts off great. I see how people can be attracted to it, like, oh, everybody's even.
Would you rather vote for VP Harris or Vladimir Putin if you had to choose?
I would actually vote for Putin if I had to, for the simple reason, if you understand Marxism and communism, you can work within it. They don't kill business. They don't try to make everybody totally subservient. And if you've noticed, the Soviet Union, we'll call it, or Russia now, has become more capitalistic since the wall fell.
It's almost like a trap. Once they get you trapped, you become one of their drones, and it leads to totalitarianism.
Can I give you my point of view, respectfully push back?
I love that.
So when it comes to Vladimir Putin, I'm not a fan of him just because I simply think he is a dictator who spreads disinformation and tries to sway people. So I think on X right now, there is a lot of disinformation that makes people pro-Russia, when in reality, Vladimir Putin hates everything about the West. He hates everything about America. And he is like our enemy to the very core. He invaded Ukraine, which, do you think that his invasion of Ukraine was justified, or?
Well, with Barack Obama and John McCain setting up the biolabs with Victoria Nuland in Ukraine.
Ronald Reagan used to be so ardently anti-Russia, and Russia has always been the antithesis of what America stands for. I mean, Russia hates the West. They want to undermine our values. So what does Kamala Harris do that makes her worse than Putin? Genuine question.
Because she's a socialist. She is bordering on dictatorship.
So you can work within Marxism and communism, but not socialism? Vladimir Putin's been trying to invade Ukraine for decades. He's been trying to restore the former Soviet Union, which, by the way, the Soviet Union was actually communist. They were a command economy, so they had communism to the core. And over, he's been trying to invade Ukraine. In 2008, he invaded Georgia. 2014, he invaded Crimea. So it seems like this is a dude who kind of just has imperial ambitions. He's like, hey, I just want to grab land. And my fear, I think he spreads a lot of propaganda online and tricks people into thinking that he's like a good person.
I think we all spread a lot of propaganda. The United States has its fair share of dealing propaganda.
What are your main sources of news?
Okay. I have numerous sources of news, but I don't watch mainstream.
What do you watch? Russia Today?
Russia Today? No, never heard of that.
What do you watch?
Oh, I watch Dan Bongino.
Dan Bongino, that's where you get it from. So I want to ask you a few questions.
I don't get my opinions from him, but I believe he's honest.
Can I ask you a few questions? So when Mike Pence in 2021 certified the results, do you think Mike Pence was in the wrong?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. The vice president has that authority.
He doesn't.
Yes, he does.
The Constitution does not say that the vice
president is there to make the decision.
So
he didn't stop the election. He had the authority to send it back to the state.
Okay, so Kamala Harris will be certifying this election. Would you be okay with her making a unilateral decision?
No, because it's going to be for her.
Okay, so why wouldn't Mike Pence's decision have been for his own ticket?
Because he was bought off.
By who?
The deep state.
The deep state. So Mike Pence is bought off. Do you think Bill Barr is bought off?
I'm up in the air with Bill Barr.
He said there was no election fraud at all.
Oh, yes, they did have suspicion of election fraud.
They found nothing, though. How come they found nothing? How come the Republican
governor... They weren't meant to find it.
Is the governor of Ohio Republican right now?
Yeah, that's
Well, how come he didn't find anything?
That snake in the grass?
So you think all of these people are rhinos?
Most of them are, yes.
Interesting.
Most of them are.
So everybody that Donald Trump surrounded himself with during his first term has essentially flipped and turned their back on him. People like Mike Pence say we no longer trust him. Bill Barr, Mark Meadows, none of these people want to be in his cabinet.
Mark Meadows.
Oh, Mark Meadows? Does that ever worry you at all? Mark Meadows even said there's no election fraud. He came out and said all of these were lies.
Yeah, okay.
We'll
see who's going to... No, it doesn't worry me. I know who I voted for. I know I watched the whole thing go down. I saw the people. I said, Trump's going to win this. Oh, no, no, no. The fix is in for Hillary. That was in 2016. No, Trump's going to win it. And he did. Because we stood up. We also stood up in 2020.
Thanks for talking.
So,
What's up? What's going on?
Producer, so if you want to talk to him.
Thank you, ma'am.
I see you're like after the easy target.
Do you work for the campaign? Oh, well, we've been walking around. It's a democracy where people have their own agency, so if they want to talk to us, they can choose to do that. They don't need you to step in.
I just noticed like you're going for the lady with the face paint.
She wanted to talk to us, and she was more than happy. Is it fair to say that you have more trust for Donald Trump than any other institution in America right now? Do you think that he tells the truth more so than...
I also think, Donald Trump could be controlled opposition.
You think so?
There could be a possibility. I'm not saying he is.
And what issues are most important to you?
The economy, immigration, and really just democracy in general.
Democracy in general. You think Trump is there to preserve our democracy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Now, Trump sent out this Truth Social post. It says he wants to terminate all rules, laws, and regulations, even those found in the Constitution. What do you think about that?
I think it's garbage.
That he said that, or that he...
No, that the liberals post that.
Oh, no, Trump posted it himself.
Okay, yeah. And was there other context around it? Or
He said that due to the election fraud in 2020, this necessitates a new election, even the termination of rules found in the Constitution.
So do you think there was election fraud?
No.
You don't?
No demonstrable election fraud. Even Bill Barr said no, Mike Pence said no, all 60 courts said no.
Not at all. You don't.
Where's your proof?
Where's my proof? I'm just going by what everyone has said, from that perspective.
But when I look at what everyone said, Trump says there's election fraud, but when people around him, like his closest advisors, people like Mark Meadows, even Mike Pence, even Bill Barr was his attorney general, all these people said, man, you got to stop with this election fraud lie. And Trump doubled down and he fired those lawyers and trusted Rudy Giuliani only. So that makes me worry when you say that he's saving democracy. In a way, he did try to subvert democracy.
So, do you think there was any election fraud? No.
So what happened in Georgia is Trump claimed there were 30,000 dead voters, and the Republican governor...
Sounds like a lot, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but when they did 3 recounts, and 3 risk-limiting audits, they found 4 dead voters, and they removed all of them. They found 4, so they did 3 recounts. So you bring up a good point, but my problem is all of these different cases, absolutely every vote should count.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Donald Trump is disenfranchising people when he tries to make us disillusioned with our institutions.
So let me ask you this:
Do you think the last election was stolen?
I think there was a lot of illegal votes.
Can you explain why Hillary Clinton claimed there was fraud in the election prior to that, and claimed that it was a stolen election?
Now that is a good question.
She just continues to say that today.
That's a good question. So the difference that's a good question. That's a good question. If you want to hop in the interview, you can.
No, we're ready.
Then if we can.
You just don't belong here.
That's a good question. It's America, man. We all belong.
All good.
So the thing is, Hillary Clinton that night called Donald Trump and conceded the election and said, hey, I lost the election. Trump, years later, still has not conceded. And also, Hillary never made up lies of massive millions of votes. Hillary never held a ride at the Capitol.
It was a rather unique election, right? Because we had COVID. So it was the first time in U.S. history that they sent out there were entire states that sent out mass mail-in ballots, and that is a very big spot that could be fraud, right?
Yeah,
a very big spot.
They weren't
huge spot.
Mail-in ballots are historically secure. Even Trump has voted via mail-in ballot, and the thing is, Donald Trump knew that the election, or that Democrats were going to overwhelmingly vote via mail-in ballot. So remember when Donald Trump was saying, don't vote via mail-in ballot, it's going to be rigged.
Democrats vote wholesale.
Anyways, yeah. I think mail-in ballots, especially when you're a state and you mail them out to everyone on the voter rolls, even though the voter rolls haven't been vetted, I think that's a very strong case for a possibility that somebody would cheat.
Well, listen, this is America, and a fundamental piece of America is that we are able to have conversations even though we differ. And some people would rather shut down conversations, like we live in Russia, than allow us to have good conversations because they're anti-American, unpatriotic people, right?
And really quickly, as I'm sure you can imagine, the coverage coming out of these past few debates has generated a lot of buzz, a lot of competing narratives, competing headlines, which makes it difficult to know what information you can rely on. And that's exactly why I reached out to Ground News to sponsor this video, as I love their tool for simplifying the news on polarizing stories. I use it every single day because Ground News is a news aggregator. They don't write their own stories, but they gather related articles from around the world into one place, one clean page, and then they give you context about each source's political leaning, each source's factual reliability, each source's ownership, and much more. And that lets you compare the coverage with additional context. A prime example is the media coverage following the Trump-Harris debate. There were 750 international and local sources covering the story, but if you analyze the coverage with the additional context, you can see some biases that you wouldn't see before. Take a look at The Blaze, a right-leaning news source. They said, Kamala Harris's top 5 falsehoods in Tuesday's debate. The Federalist, another right-wing news source, took it to the next level. They said 25 lies Kamala Harris told in her debate against Donald Trump. But if you look at a left-leaning news source, Sask Today, they say experts say Harris dominated in debate performance against Trump. ABC News is left-leaning, but they take a middle-of-the-road approach and say Trump refuses to commit to second debate with Harris, saying she wants to because she lost. So it's really interesting that you can see how each source skews the coverage, and it's also crazy because a lot of these right-leaning outlets don't even cover Trump's worst debate moments, and that's why Ground News has a blind spot feed. The blind spot feed shows you stories that certain outlets aren't covering, stories that are being disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. So Ground News has been invaluable for me during all of the noise this election cycle has produced, and I think it will be for you too, especially with all of these competing headlines. So if you're serious about staying informed, head over to ground.news/am and you'll get 40% off the Vantage subscription, which gives you unlimited access to everything Ground News has to offer, and that is what I use. So by subscribing, you're not only getting a better way to consume news, but you're directly supporting my work. So scan the QR code or go to ground.news/am. Thank you guys.